Selling your dental practice is one of the biggest decisions you will make in your entire career. This is Paul, Dr. Nacho, founder of Dental Nachos and Dentist Job Connect. I'm thrilled to be with a transitions expert from DDS Match, amazing supporter and sponsor of this group. And we're going to talk about what you need to succeed in buying and selling a dental practice, how to make decisions with success and not stress. To contact us to learn about listings or how to sell your dental practice with success, text BUY to 215-543-6454 or text SELL to 215-543-6454. I'd like to welcome my guest to our podcast. Please share with us who you are, where you work, and what you do in your daily dental life to help dentisting dreams come true.
Well, good morning, Dr. Paul Nachos, and thanks for having me on.
Sure.
I'm Stephen Hipson, and I live in Dallas, Texas. I've owned my franchise here with DDS Match for over 9 years now, and I work every day to bring sound solutions to dentists who are looking to sell their practices and match them up with buyers who are looking to buy a practice. So it's pretty simple.
The true circle of dentisting life, Stephen, that's what I call it. And we want to go over some questions with you to help our audience be educated, make good decisions. As someone who owns multiple practices, has helped dentists buy and sell practices, and is the founder of a 70,000 person community that relies on me for advice. There's so much misinformation out there in the broker world, and we are going to start helping with that now. So why do sellers hire you in DDS Match? Why do they reach out to you to hire you in DDS Match?
Good question, Paul. Thank you. Sellers hire me first and foremost for the expertise that I bring. After almost 25 years of working with dentists, I really feel comfortable communicating with dentists, understanding what they're looking for. And over the years, I've really developed an expertise to help them get where they want to be. Second thing is, this is almost always a very confidential process. So understanding the confidentiality of this is another reason that dentists will hire me in DDS Match. The last thing we want to do is set off a big distraction in any practice to the staff, definitely not to any patients, or within a community that a dentist is thinking about selling. So the confidentiality is the second reason that a dentist would hire me. And third is the process we're going to take them through. At DDS Match, you'll hear we talk about our trusted transition process. And basically what that's saying is we're going to help you from the thought of thinking about selling your practice to closing day, when you shake the hands with the buyer and walk away with your reward. So the process we take you through, in my opinion, is unmatched from any other practice brokers out there.
I love how you shared this. You laid it out nicely. And some of the things that I've shared with dentists is one of the reasons you want to not tell everyone too soon is because some people get overly excited. And I always say, I never give my 5-year-old an LOI that we might get ice cream, because we better be getting ice cream. Because if I say in the morning, hey, we might get ice cream, she's like, is now the time we're getting ice cream? Is now the time we're getting ice cream? So hopefully I can share, Stephen, that even, if you have an amazing team, if you do say, hey, I'm thinking about selling my practice, I've learned through this process, it can take longer than anyone thinks. And it, like you put it perfectly, it can cause a distraction. It doesn't necessarily cause a disaster, but your team might be saying, hey, is this the person going to take over? When are they going to be there? So I think it's key that you have a trusted broker who can walk you through this, because one of the things that I'll share, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, most dentists, they only do this once, right, Stephen? I mean, they're only going to do it one time in their whole life, and they don't have the context like you do of what happens. So tell us a little bit about your background and what qualifies someone to be a professional dental practice broker.
Yeah, good question. Thanks for asking. My background in the dental space goes all the way back to the year 1999, and I was selling X-ray equipment for dentists. I worked with Serona, and this was before the first digital pan X-ray. I was selling film panoramic X-ray machines, and shortly after that, I got offered an equipment specialist position with Patterson Dental, and I spent the next 10 years with Patterson Dental. I was selling equipment, designing dental offices for 5 years, and then I actually managed the team. So as a branch manager, now they call it a general manager, I was responsible for managing the P&L and for hiring and training good dental professionals at Patterson Dental. After 10 years with that, I went to Bank of America, where I learned really what goes on financially. What does a P&L really mean inside a dental practice? Is this practice profitable? Is it a good practice to sell? Are they doing things well? So 5 years at Bank of America really gave me the confidence to understand dentistry, understand equipment, understand the relationships, but most important, understanding the financial makeup of dental practice and what qualifies a practice to be sold.
I love that you're sharing that. And you've hit on so many great topics. One of the things, if someone said, "Hey, Dr. Nacho, how could you make dental school better? How could you improve it?" I would say, this is what I would do. Every year from D1, D2, D3, D4, there must be a course on how to analyze and understand a dental practice P&L. And this is not to buy or sell practice. It's just to understand how money moves through a dental practice, the way calories move through our body. And I think it is just nacho nuts to me, to use a technical term, Stephen, that dental students are just totally unaware that you spend money on marketing and staff costs should be this, and they should learn without an agenda, not so they can maximize profitability, not so that they could sell their practice, just so they literally look at all the line items that dentists have to spend on. And one of the reasons I find dentistry to be so overwhelming as a practice owner is just the number of vendors that you have to deal with as a dental practice owner is just so many. And understanding this, because the quality of your P&L, and I'll ask you a question, is does the quality of your P&L and understanding it and being able to give that to your broker so they can analyze your practice, does that help you be more successful in selling?
Sure. If we can understand, it's almost like when you do an exam, you take X-rays, right? You can't
Yeah.
go in and start drilling and filling. You can't start doing a crown prep if you don't know what's going on with that tooth. So it's not a big secret. There's a lot of overlap here with what we do and with what you all do in dentistry. You have to examine, you have to diagnose, you have to treatment plan, you have to come up with solutions and options. That's exactly what we do. So there's a lot of overlap. And when we talk about a process, we believe that dentists are process oriented. You make your way through a day
Yeah.
with process, right? Whether it's from a new patient to a repeat patient, through your hygiene, through your prayer, whatever your treatment is, you all are process oriented. And we feel that we overlap, and we can take you through our process, much like you take your patients and staff through your daily process, being a dentist.
I love that. Been sharing with the brokers that my goal is to help you talk dentists. So dentists say, this person knows what they're talking about. And I hope dentists talk to brokers, because I say, if you want to make a broker excited about your practice sale, just say, all day I'm working on my biceps and EBITDA, right? Stephen, that's it. But I say, if you want to talk dentist, and you can use this, and this is where we get to the preparation part. I want to set you up for this, but I want to share this. If you say to a dentist, isn't it kind of frustrating when some of your patients come in December and say, I need to do my 3 crowns because my insurance expires, and they put you under pressure? Doesn't that frustrate you and cause problems and hassles? And oftentimes, isn't it impossible for that patient to be successful? Well, I've seen dentists be ill-prepared, lack of prepared, not start sooner. So talk to me about the preparation. If you're talking to a dentist who's saying, hey, I'm having this thought, tell me from you, Stephen, how they should prepare, the timing, the communication, because I think this is such a key point to hit on.
No, another good question. Thank you. I will tell you that the typical response I get from a dentist is, Steve, I'm thinking about selling, but I'm 3 to 5 years away. And I'll say, okay. So, my question is, if you and I are having this discussion 3 to 5 years from now, what has to have happened in your practice during those 3 to 5 years to make you feel good about this decision? In other words, let's talk about some of the dangers or some of the challenges that are going on in your practice today. What are some of the opportunities in your practice that, as you see it, and what are some of the pure strengths in your practice?
Yeah.
What we find is that they deflect that 3 to 5 years window because they haven't thought about it yet, and there is no plan. So my thought on that is, if you're already seeing a practice that's in a little bit of a decline mode, maybe the dentist is not going after new patients anymore. Maybe they're not keeping up with technology. Maybe they're not working full time anymore. Maybe they want us to take some time off to see grandchildren and et cetera, and travel and play golf and relax a little bit. That's fine. But what we start to talk about in that initial conversation is if this trend continues over the next 3 to 5 years, the value in your practice deteriorates as well. So if you cannot inject the energy, the drive, the emotion, and if you cannot keep your foot on that gas pedal for 3 to 5 years, as you've told me, then why not even think about maybe some options you have today? Because they don't know what those options are. The first thing that comes to mind is, what if we looked at selling your practice today and you don't have to retire? You don't have to go away. What if you come back on as that associate? You can see the patients you want to see, do the procedures you want to do, and avoid the things that you don't want to do anymore. And I've had so many dentists say to me, Stephen, if you get that done for me, I'll sign up today. But we have those flexibilities. We have those options as DDS match professionals where we can cater this and transition this practice on your terms. So more often than not, that 3 to 5 year, I'm going to wait and wait and wait comes into a, let's talk about this today because I am tired. Don't want to see new patients. I'm tired of marketing. I'm tired of recruiting. I'm tired of staff turnover. I'm tired of COVID. I want to do this at a much reduced schedule, but I still love dentistry. It's what I do.
I
But we
love
have,
how you've laid this out for these dentists. It's like how we lay out a nice treatment plan for a patient and they want to plan ahead. You want to plan ahead financially. You want to plan ahead with your family time. You want to plan ahead with your freedom. And I think one of the things that I didn't understand, even though I grew up in a dental practice with my amazing dad, Stephen, and his partner, and I purchased practices, until I purchased that second practice, I just didn't realize the length of time it really takes to make all of these things happen. And one of the things I'd like to highlight to my audience is it's a complex transaction. It's not like selling a house. If you sell a house, Stephen, the only requirement is people who can live in a house, which is everyone. But you need a dentist. There's not that many of them. You need a dentist in your state. There's not that many of them. You need a dentist in your state that wants to practice in your area. Practice in your area. They might need to be credentialed with insurances. They may have to leave a job. So I think one of the things I'd like to ask you next before I get to your last question is, some dentists, and they say this with good intentions, not just with frugal intentions, even though sometimes they say, why do I need a broker? I could just like list my own practice for sale. I could just like put it on my own Facebook page. What's the danger of that? And also what's like, they're not going to connect with all the people that could buy it. Just talk to them for a minute as a broker is doing this daily, how doing it yourself without a broker can be very dangerous.
great question. My short answer to that is I'm not going to do a crown prep and you shouldn't try to sell a dental practice.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's not my expertise. And I'm probably pretty confident in saying your expertise is probably not selling a dental practice. So on the other side of that, my first reaction to that is you can do it. There goes the confidentiality.
Yeah.
Right? There goes the expertise. And there goes the process that, with all due respect, you just don't understand. So what we talked about 10 minutes ago, you're now saying you don't see the value in that. So for me as a broker, I've got to step back and say, what have I not done well so far? What have I not communicated to this prospect, to this potential seller? So I've got to stop back and maybe revisit that. Nothing. There's no state law that says as a dentist, you can't sell your own practice. And I basically challenge them and I'll ask them questions like, what are you going to do with the AR? What are you going to do with the personal property tax? What are you going to do with the letter of intent? Who's going to write your APA? What about all the things that we put into this? What about the attorneys? What about the legalities of it? How are you going to trend? And I start to ask them questions and they look at me like, I don't know.
And I'll add this, you're adding something, but one of the things I'll share as, a dentist myself, if you said to a dentist, what are you more afraid of? Not getting $100,000 for your practice that you could get, or having to stay an extra year? And they go, the second one, that one, staying extra time. And I said, well, if you do this on your own, you don't know all the people that could buy your practice, and someone could string you along and you could wind up spending 7, 8, 9 months. And brokers mitigate that. It's not like we can totally not prevent it, but we mitigate that because we can ask buyer questions. You can ask buyers questions to know if they're serious or not. I'm sure you can ask a buyer 3 questions and know if they're serious or not.
Oh, that brings up a good point because I get asked all the time, okay, Stephen, how are you going to qualify these buyers? Where do you get these buyers? Who do you know? And part of what we do to earn our fee is we're going to qualify those buyers because I'm very, very sensitive. When a dentist hires me, I'm sensitive to your time. You're busy. Okay. The worst thing I can do is bring you an unqualified buyer. Well, what's a qualified buyer? In my opinion, it's someone who geographically wants to live and work in that community. I still believe a dentist should have some sense of community involvement. The second thing is clinically. Are they able to do most of the clinical procedures that that seller is doing in their
Yeah.
practice? If they're doing 35% implant placements and this buyer has never placed an implant, may be a recipe for disaster. That is not the ideal buyer for that practice. Thirdly, financially, our relationships, our sources that we work with, the best dental specific lenders across the country are people that I'm going to introduce these buyers to and make sure they're pre-qualified financially. We don't want to get emotionally involved. We don't want to drag attorneys through this when we get to the end point and say, oh, this guy is not qualified to get that loan, so we've just wasted 3 months of your time. We're not going to do that. I'm going to bring a qualified buyer to my seller every time.
And I think that
I
that
think that,
you hit the proverbial nail on the nacho head with that, because in my experience, the fear is I'm not going to be able to sell this practice in the timeline that I need. And getting the best price possible, in my experience, is very important. But the most things they talk about, when can I be done? How soon can I be done? When does my 6-month associate contract start? DSO start? So I want to wrap up with, and I love this question, why did you decide to do this, right? Why did you decide to sign up to help dentists? You're there. I don't know if you've thought about it this way, but you're helping one dentist make the second biggest decision of their life. And then you're working with the buyer who's making the biggest decision of their life. Because in the circle of dentistry life, buying your first dental practice is the biggest decision you will make, and selling your only practice is the second biggest decision. So you've signed up to be right in the middle there, Stephen, working, I know, only for the seller. Why did you decide to do that?
yeah, again, great question. And like I said, after 20 years of working with dentists, I saw a need, right? And my why goes down to basically, we've all been to a thousand dental conventions, and most of the vendors in their booths are set up. Doctor, this is going to save you time and money. This new device is going to, increase your profitability. This new chair is going to make you ergonomically more comfortable. You can see more patients and do more. And everybody in there is motivated to help the dentist grow, 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 grow. Buy this and the ROI is this. Do this and you'll get this. When all of a sudden a dentist in the twilight of their career, they're not investing in those things. They're set in their ways. And nobody in these booths really wants to talk to these guys that are in the last few years of their career. And I watched this and I watched this and I watched this. And I finally realized there was no true process or system in place to help these guys get from where they are to where inevitably they all want to be,
Yeah.
which is a happy retirement, being rewarded for the 30, 40, 50 years of work they've put into building their practice, and they don't know how to get out of it. So with my background, with my training, with the mentorship and leadership we got from Thad Miller and Indy, the founder of DDS Match, he brought me in and said, Steve, you're already doing these things. You're just not getting paid for it.
Yeah.
In other words, why not take the expertise, the teachings you've learned, apply them with this? Because every year, just in the state of Texas, there's 300 dentists that are looking to sell their practice,
Yeah.
just in Texas. So with that in mind, I said, I don't need to have 300 sales a year. But if I could get a look at that, if I could take the people I know, if I could take my relationships and experience and help these dentists who believe they're ready to start thinking about it, I have that wherewithal. I have that means. I've got these sources to get them there. So it became something I'm very passionate about. And it's gone very, very well here in my
I
ninth
love the
year.
way you've explained it. And one of the things, as we start to wrap up, you're working in the Dallas and Fort Worth area and all of North Texas. And the reason why I believe my audience should reach out to you for a complimentary conversation, just have a conversation, is that you have context. So if they ask their accountant, very important person, about something, they don't have context of the buyer and seller world. And they might ask their bank and they might ask their attorney, but you start with a conversation with a broker like you, because I'm sure, maybe you can, correct me if I'm wrong, do you have sellers reach out to you and say, hey, if you want this amount of money, you're not ready yet? Or have sellers say, hey, if you want to do this, you got to do X, Y, and Z. So it sounds to me like you are the person that motivates them into action, whether it's moving faster or to make some adjustments. Is that something that you do in your daily life?
Yeah, of course it is. But our underlying theme, and you know this, Paul, is we're going to transition on your terms. If you
Yeah.
are truly not ready for 3 to 5 years, if you can truly keep your foot on that gas pedal for 3 to 5 years, it's great. That's great. I don't need to sell it today, but we're going to start a relationship and we're going to start a process that helps you understand where you need to go and what you should be doing over the next 3 to 5 years. So all of that's fine because there really are some dentists that I applaud and I tell them, well done. If you're truly 3 to 5 years away, I still want to talk to you. I still want to have that
And
conversation with you.
this theme is important to me because as someone who does what I do, uh, I've helped dentists with their dreams and I've also helped them avoid nightmares. But people have been in situations where the nightmares already happened, the disasters already happened, where a dentist gets injured, a dentist dies suddenly, they leave their family in the lurch. So just to kind of reinforce this, can people talk to you about these transition plans so they can set their family up for success, so they can set their plan up for success? And you had sellers, I'm sure the answer to this is yes, because I have, that have just come too late in the process and been either frustrated or actually if we just been failed to get what they wanted. Does that happen?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. And that's why it's never too early to start and have a conversation. I've got dentists I'm talking to that are 45 years old. They're not thinking about retirement, but something led them to say, hey, what does this look like? What should I be doing? Am I on a good path? And the thing that we do early and often is bring in our trusted advisors,
Yeah.
right? Bring in that CPA that you mentioned, bring in that attorney, bring in those wealth management people, help them understand where they are today and what this needs to look like for security for them, their families, and their retirement process. So, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, that's the theme we have here. Build the team to help you realize your dreams. We can go for you, Dirk Nowitzki from the Dallas Mavericks back in the day. I like the team. So thank you so much for sharing with Stephen. If people want to reach out and connect with us to learn about buying or selling a practice, please text buy to 215-543-6454 or text sell to 215-543-6454. Thanks so much for sharing with me, Stephen.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you.